So I am following this case where this vascular surgeon unalived his ex-wife and her dentist husband. So the vascular surgeon, he lived in Illinois and drove to either, I think it's Michigan or Ohio, in the wee hours of the morning on December 30th and unalived his ex-wife and her dentist husband. He left behind the 4-year-old child and the 1-year-old child. So they are alive. And some history on the surgeon and his ex-wife. So they met in college, got married in 2015, and then she filed for divorce in 2017 on the grounds of no fault. I didn't even realize that there was something called no fault, that you could get divorced based on those grounds in some state. And no fault, I understand, simply means that you're not going to blame either party, all right? And the one that she used was the grounds of incompatibility. Now, I have heard of irreconcilable differences, but I never knew that you could get divorced, on grounds of incompatibility under the no fault terms, right? So that was something new for me. But it brought me right back to that video that I did when I spoke about the 4 phases of a relationship, where you have the attraction phase, then commitment, complement, and the last part was compatibility. Well, if the couples are compatible, so if they go through all of the stages and they get to compatible and they are compatible, then most times you have a long, successful marriage or relationship. But clearly, if you're not compatible, that's some grounds for separation, right? And in this episode, what I would like us to do is to look at the serious nature of incompatibility, why it's so important to have the right mix. And when you don't have the right mix, what happens? What could we do to avoid relationships dissolving because that key mixture of compatibility is missing? So we would look at some of the things that fall under the umbrella of incompatibility, right? And actually there was a study done in 1993 and the results were published in the Journal of Marriage, in the Journal of Divorce and Remarriage, where they spoke about some of the factors that affected marriages. And there was a number 1 most frequently cited factor, which I will discuss later. But for right now, I want us to look at some of the other common ones, right? You may have some sexual incompatibility, where one person might have these sexual fetish desires and the other person might be, hold up, nah, that's not for me. I ain't doing that. I'll hold out on this one, right? No. And so we may have an issue right there, right? So how do we deal with that? And my thing is, if that becomes a problem, either that should have been discussed before the marriage or before we are way into the relationship than we are now. But let's just suppose that's not the case. As you get into the relationship more, the desires start to come more to the forefront. What do you do? For me, I believe we could have open communication. We could set boundaries. What will be tolerated, what will be accepted, what is permissible and what is not, and have an agreement. Now, the agreement also will be based on trust, all right? If you value this relationship enough that you are willing to forego some of your sexual desires, that's going to be really, really great, right? Again, it's going to be based on trust, because we could have the conversation, we could have the agreement, but yet still one person may seek to get all of their fetish desires elsewhere, and that's where some of the problems will start coming in. So if you realize you are on the verge of heading in another direction despite what was spoken, that's where you may need to get some help, go to a therapist, or maybe revisit the conversation and see if there could be a compromise or something so that you wouldn't have to step outside of your relationship and create all of the unnecessary problems. So that's a sexual part of it, right? And you have other things like financial incompatibility. So one person might be very, very good with money, and the other person may not be. One want to buy a Ferrari or a Maserati or some other fancy car, and the other person saying, here this. Let's just buy a simple car. They all have 4 wheels. They will all drive us and bring us home safely. They have a steering wheel. We just need to go where we have to go and come back. We don't need all the other fancy gadgets, right? Let's take that money and invest it somewhere. But you cannot get through to the other person because you all are on 2 different financial wavelengths. So you cannot get through. Again, I believe open communication, or you have to know what will work for you in this instance, right? Do we pool our money together? Should we have separate funds? What is the most logical plan that we could come up with as opposed to looking at going our separate ways? Because think about it, right? If you have a partner that has all of the other 3 qualities, very attractive. I want to stay with this woman. She's so beautiful, nicely shaped, has such nice ways, so loving, so kind, whatever the attraction is to her. She has that. You all complement each other and you are committed to relationship, but you may have some differences that make you incompatible. Is that reason for you to separate? All right. Think about these things before we decide to go separate ways. The other one is religion. Sometimes you may be of a different religious background from the person that you got married to or you're in the relationship with. And I think, again, it depends on how serious that is to you. You should really make a decision if you should even get into the relationship in the first place. All right. Now, sometimes because the attraction is so strong, we believe we could get involved and then try to work on these other things at some point. And you would realize that incompatibility is so intense that it's not going to work because you really, really put your religion first. Once the attraction dies down and you realize I'm not willing to be committed because the compatibility isn't there. So some of the things, as they say, look before you leap. All right. Think about this before you go head in strong, wanting marriage and a relationship. Discuss these things and see if it doesn't make sense, you walk away from it. And then the other one is the values. What are my values that I was raised with? It's very different to the values that other person have. Can we compromise, right? So again, these are things that you should either discuss before, have that open communication, set boundaries. Now, the last one that was most frequently cited that contributes to incompatibility in the study was the emotional needs not being filled, emotional unavailability. And as a woman, I am going to talk about it from a woman's standpoint, right? And as a woman, well, even before I get into it from a woman's standpoint, I want us to look at, when I say emotional needs not being filled, I want to break it down. So what does that mean exactly, emotional needs? Well, think about it. When we talk about emotions, what comes to mind? Feelings, right? You could be sad. You could be frustrated. You could be overwhelmed. You could be very happy. You could be very excited. You could be, I think I said frustrated already, right? But there are combination of many emotions that we go through second by second, hour by hour, day by day, right? And as women, when we are faced with some really challenging emotions. Maybe I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, I had a hard day at work, or financially, I don't have the amount of money that I need to have to do certain things, and it's really affecting me, right? I'm so upset, I fell out with somebody at work or a family member, it's always X, Y, and Z. What have you? I am not in a nice emotional state of mind at a particular time or many times in my life. So I am not emotionally comforted, right? So I come to my partner, I come to my husband, and I want to share how I feel with you. And in me trying to do that, I get either very dismissive remarks, or I hear things like, there she goes again, what is it now? You exaggerate and you just make a mountain out of a molehill or vice versa. I'm probably saying the wrong thing. Right? But I think you know what I mean. You're trying to make something bigger than it really is because you're too sensitive, right? So if as a woman you continuously hear these things, you wouldn't want to open up because it's like, what's the point? If I come to you and share how I am feeling, you would shut me down with your dismissive statements. And that's not what I want. What I would prefer is for you to be emotionally available for me when I'm having these emotional meltdowns. And I would expect you to give me either a hug or simple, just listen. You don't have to fix anything. And a lot of times I think men, when you go to them, they think you're coming to them because you want them to give you a solution, or you want them to fix the problem. And that's not it. By you listening, that's already providing a solution. By you saying to me, I understand how you feel, I could imagine how frustrating that is. Yeah, so all we're looking for is that comfort at that point in time. And please don't let a woman get into what I call the danger zone. And it's a danger zone when she starts to hold back, when she starts to get silent on you and says, you know what, it doesn't even matter that I'm sharing anything with him because he doesn't care. And according to Maya Angelou, I'm always calling the lady name the other way around, Angelo Maya. But it's according to Maya Angelou, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So show that you care. And I think she also says people will remember how you made them feel, especially in times of wanting that emotional comfort. And when you don't show up, all right, the way she's expecting you to give her the love, to give her the understanding, that emotional safety, she shuts down. And she starts to show less interest in intimacy. She starts to get less affectionate. And she starts planting certain seeds. Seeds that sounds like this. I don't know how much longer I will take this. He's nice, he's X, he's Y. But every time I come to him, he is so emotionally unavailable. And for a woman, feeling emotionally safe and comforted, that's a big, big thing for a lot of us, right? So to avoid a woman getting to that level of discomfort where she starts to get silent and plan in her mind that she's not gonna deal with this for her entire life in this marriage, there are some things that I believe both parties could do upfront, have that communication. As a woman, explain to your husband how you would like him to show up when you are having different emotional experiences. Because a lot of times men are not, they say that they're not mind readers. And really they are not, right? We may expect or think that there are certain things that he should know. He see I'm quiet, or he realized that I am upset, or he saw me crying. You mean he wouldn't even come and hug me? And then he may not do that because he doesn't think that he could fix it. And sometimes that's how they deal with it. They just stay quiet because he doesn't believe he has the solution. So have conversations and let him know what you would like to see in his responses when you're having situations like that. Yeah, communication is always very important. In some instances too, for some of those incompatible things that I mentioned earlier, setting boundaries is really, really important as well. Set financial boundaries, sexual boundaries, religious boundaries, and value boundaries, all right? There are instances when the incompatibility might be so intense that fixing it might be beyond you. And that's where you would seek guidance, external guidance from a counselor or a therapist. And please, gone are the days I would like to think that people don't want to go for therapy, thinking that it's taboo or something is so wrong with you that you cannot fix it. And it's not something is so wrong with you that you cannot fix it. I believe the neutral eyes help somebody coming in from the outside looking and being very objective, and they're trained to spot the cognitive blind spots that we cannot see. All right, so get professional help. So before I end, I just want to share this that I just recently found out also. There's a term called alexithymia, and it says that these are people who suffer from a disorder where they have absolutely no emotional connection with other people because they themselves lack emotions. They cannot feel emotions. And because of that, they cannot relate to someone else when that person is experiencing any type of emotions, right? It's a neurological disorder. And who knows, maybe some of our partners might be experiencing that alexithymia, all right? So that is something too you could get evaluated to see if it is a condition that you may have that may need to be treated. I was following some of the comments from persons who suffer from that disorder and how it was affecting their relationships and what help these people got. So it's not something that is all over and cannot be fixed. We could still salvage some relationships and some marriages even if there is incompatibility. So the end of my video, Vibes and Wisdom. Like, subscribe, comment. Until we meet again.